All right. Hello, I am Tyler Gray, and this is Forged in Chaos Daily. So this video is essentially About Me Part 2. Why am I doing an About Me video? Because my girlfriend told me that it was a good idea, because I shouldn't necessarily assume that people land here know who I am, know anything about me, or why I'm doing these videos, why you should listen to anything I have to say, etc., so on and so forth. So I am doing these two videos about me to educate you on me, because I know me. Not great, but pretty decently. All right. So where I left off was pretty much after I had gotten medically retired. I initially moved to Vegas, but I was going out to Hollywood trying to work in the industry. It took me maybe 2 years of just constantly going out, networking, meeting people, etc., before I met someone that eventually gave me an opportunity to work on something. At that time, also, I'm doing that. I'm not really realizing that that is happening at the same time that a massive internal struggle is brewing of a mix of multiple things, part identity crisis, part loss, grieving cycle, the I think it's 7 stages of grief. And you go through these 7 stages, but you go through the 7 stages of grief for each loss that you've experienced. A lot of people don't realize, when you just think of when you lose or leave or lose, for that matter, a job, you are experiencing the loss of that job, that career. You're experiencing the loss of that environment. You're experiencing the loss of that group of friends, coworkers, etc. So there's a lot of loss happening. I was also at the same time experiencing the loss of, the full use of my right arm, the loss, quite frankly, of feeling capable, because a lot of people don't realize my hand is only, like 38% functional. So it's receptive. I can do a lot of things, but it's not even close to even 50% of normal function. So there's a lot that I have to adapt and adjust for. And so I was really struggling with the loss of the perceived loss of capability. That, I'm going to go on a limb and say, the loss of my being physically capable. I didn't realize how much value I put in my physical capability, the shape I was in, what I could do, which was obviously based on, I was good at the job I did in the military. I know I was good at that job. I know that I was good at that job, which is how I got to where I did. And so I had a lot of confidence in my ability to do that. And then it was gone. The injury took away that ability, and therefore it took away that confidence. And therefore it took away a big part, I would say the anchor, for lack of a better term, of my identity. I didn't realize that was the anchor of my identity. Why was it the anchor of my identity? Well, let's go back to what I said in video 1 about childhood. Yes, I had no confidence, in different things, but as a kid, I knew I was good at sports. I was great at soccer. I was really good at football. I knew what I was good at. And suddenly I was no good at those things anymore. So the one thing that gave me confidence as a child, the injury took that. And again, this is easy for me to say now. It's so, hindsight's 2020. It's really easy for me to just sit here and spit this all out as if I knew it at that time. I did not. It took me years and years and years to figure this all out. So if you are struggling with something and you haven't figured it out, don't feel bad. It took me a long time to figure out my stuff. Like I said, it was a massive identity crisis with, there's a term I like. It was a multi-headed hydra, if you know what a hydra is. A hydra was a mythical beast, I believe in Greek mythology, where you cut one of the heads off and 2 would grow in its place. And that's kind of how I felt about the issues I had at the time. I would solve one only for, I would cut one off and think I had solved it, and 2 would grow in its place. That led to me essentially, for lack of a better term, going to war with myself. And I have a theory called LTSD, but essentially from childhood being raised in a chaotic environment and then being in the military, which is chaos, and being comfortable in that chaotic environment, when I was in regular society, I missed that chaos and I needed the chaos in the environment to feel comfortable because that's what I was used to. So, what did I do? I created that chaos. How did I create it? By getting into, I mean, multiple ways. I drank too much. I was taking opiate painkillers, which isn't really my, fault. That was definitely kind of necessary to a degree for the injury, and the surgeries and all that. So I can't blame myself too much for that, but I definitely took it more for mental pain than for physical pain. There's no doubt about it. I would take them and I would drink with them, which is not good. And I just created chaos. So by doing all those behaviors, I would drive too fast. I would be aggressive when I shouldn't be aggressive. I would pick fights. I would date, women who were chaotic, because that is how I put the chaos in my environment. I think the biggest thing is I just felt lost. Can't think of a better word other than lost. I spent a while lost, years lost. Now, again, it's hindsight. So it's not like at the time I even knew I was lost. It's not like I was sitting there going, man, I'm lost. You're more lost when you don't know you're lost, right? So it took me time to figure out I was lost. Then when I figured out I was lost, I was like, oh, okay, now I can try and be found. But when you don't know you're lost, you're more lost than when you know you're lost. So the turning point, making no mistake, there were 1,000 turning points. I couldn't even begin to say how many turning points I had in my journey. That's the best way to say it. There was 1,000 little turning points, from leaving that, a toxic relationship, to realizing I was lost, to it was a series of small awarenesses that culminated in eventually realizing that I had to turn things around. And I'll detail later those specific things. But at a certain point, I realized that I needed to do something. I realized that I had some serious problems. For me, I think the easiest way to describe realizing the problem was I did a documentary called That Which I Love Destroys Me. If you watch the documentary, which I'll post a link to in my bio, if you watch the documentary, you'll go, oh, this is a story with a beginning, a middle, and ending. The reality is the ending is not the ending, because the ending of that movie for me was actually the beginning of me understanding the extent of the issues I had. So at the end, it looks like everything's fine. It was not fine. I promise you. It was really at the end, me just realizing that, I had some serious issues that I needed to be fixed, and filming that was a 5-year process of learning that. So the biggest lesson for me was probably realizing that my core issue was actually a self-worth slash, internal value, whatever you want to call it. There's different terms. But when I really truly figured out that self-worth was the foundation that all the other bullshit rested upon, that was when I really understood what I needed to do. And that was, I needed to build self-worth. I needed to build internal intrinsic value in myself and who I was and what I had to offer that depended on nothing external. And so I began to do that. And once I started that journey, it became very obvious to me very quickly that I didn't see a lot of books or material that really talked about that as a core issue. A lot of people will talk about for lack of a better term, the symptoms that low self-worth leads to, like addiction. Addiction is a symptom of low self-worth. The disease is not alcoholism. The disease is not drug addiction. The disease is not gambling. The disease is low self-worth, and an inability to internally control emotion and internally feel value. So you have to seek ways to control emotion externally. And you need to seek ways to add value or have value or feel value externally. So self-worth is the disease. Those addictions, those external things are the symptoms. And so I saw that there was a lot of books, there's a lot of videos, there's a lot of things that tools to help people with the symptoms, but I didn't see a lot of things that were really talking about or addressing or helping with the disease. So I wanted to do this series about the disease. And Forged in Chaos is about multiple things, but really, if you think of what forged in chaos means, it's from chaos comes a lack of self-worth. But if you figure it out and address it and give your self-worth, you literally can become something amazing. That trauma can be a gift, and you can use that trauma that you experienced as a fuel to help you push you further and go farther than people that don't experience that trauma. In my experience, I think trauma, as shitty as it is, I think it is the fuel that pushes people to do more, be more, and attain more. And again, if you just look at anyone's story that's achieved great things, generally there is a traumatic early component to it. And to me, that trauma is just, it's a springboard, and it's going to lead one or two ways. It's going to lead to really great things, or it's going to lead to really bad things. And I believe it's on us individually to choose and decide which path we're going to go on. So yeah, that's about I'll talk more about why this channel exists, but far as video about me, I think that's pretty it. That's me in a nutshell. That's me in, I don't know, almost 30 minutes. I'm going to do another video to really break down exactly what I see this channel doing, what I see the daily therapy doing, how I want to go about it. But I hope you like this video. If you do, go ahead and like. And if you like this video series and want to see more, please go ahead and click the subscribe button. Thank you so much for watching. Talk to you soon.